Excerpt from Kathleen, The Celtic Knot. I put my weight on my left foot and stood with my right foot poised, wondering what on earth I was going to do when the music started, because I couldn't remember even the very first step of the dance. But as soon as I heard the squeeze box leading into my tune, everything that had happened over the past few weeks flew out of my head, and the knowledge of the steps came flooding back. The split second the bar note sounded, I leaped into action. This was it. Either my legs were going to give way under me, and I was going to end up in a heap on the floor with Polly's green curtains all around me, or I was going to dance my heart out. I gave one big, joyful bound and gave myself up to the dance, and the dance did me proud. I kicked and soared and pranced and whirled, stepped and twirled and spun and flew, tripped and skipped and skimmed and sailed all over that stage. I hardly knew where I was, and I was completely oblivious to the audience, the strange hall, even the adjudicator, though I knew she must be out there somewhere in the blur of humanity beyond the stage, watching carefully and taking notes. I didn't care about that. I was filled with the joy of the dance, and I didn't give a rattling toss about Tess O'Hara and her sky blue frock and her snooty ways. All I wanted was for the music never to stop, so that I could dance and twinkle and leap in its magic nets forever. The music did stop, of course, and I did too, and as soon as I stopped, I knew it was just as well that the music had, because suddenly I was worn out, weak-kneed and panting, fit to collapse. A terrific noise started up out of nowhere. I thought maybe the roof was coming down or a tremendous thunderstorm had started up, and I stood there, as if nailed to the stage, waiting to be overwhelmed by whatever force it was that had set this thunderous sound into motion. I breathed deeply, blinking and looking around me, still standing center stage, with my toes pointed in front of me and my knees crooked, as I had been taught. Then I realized what the noise was, and I started to smile. It wasn't a natural disaster or a storm. It was applause, a thunderous clapping and stamping of feet and rocking of chairs. And it was for me and my dance. I beamed and beamed until my face ached. I felt like the sun up there on the stage, the center of a little universe, all eyes toward me, and me beaming and radiating triumph and pleasure and gratitude and exhaustion all at once. I made a little curtsy, and then I tripped quickly and lightly off stage. "She's so light on her feet," I could hear people say, as I flew down the steps at the side of the stage. "It's like watching feathers floating on the breeze," some poetic type said. "She's a champion, that's for sure." They were talking about me, but I'd lost interest now. I wanted to see if Polly was there. I needed to know that she'd seen me dancing. I wanted her to be able to tell my mom about it. Madge and the others wouldn't have the words to describe it. I knew that, and I couldn't describe it myself. But Polly would be able to tell it all with great panache. I stood near the top of the hall by the stage, and I scanned the rows and rows of people. A figure was coming toward me, but I couldn't make it out properly in the semi-dusk of the seething room. "Polly?" I called uncertainly. It couldn't be Polly, though. It was too big and blustering. I was right. It was Mrs. McGuire. "Mais thu, et Karin," she was saying delightedly, pumping my hand. "Well done, Kathleen. That was a champion performance if ever I saw one. You're my star pupil. Do you know that? I'm proud to be your teacher." I smiled nervously at her. I wasn't used to having my hand shaken, and I certainly wasn't used to people being proud to be my teacher. I kept on smiling, and at the same time I was trying to look around Mrs. McGuire's bulk to see if I could catch a glimpse of Polly's flying figure and wide smile. Mrs. McGuire moved away then, after giving my hand one last good yank, to talk to another pupil's mother. And as she did so, I spotted Polly hanging back, waiting for me to finish my conversation with my teacher. I was so glad to see her. I waved, and she came running forward and scooped me into a tight, tight hug, whirling me around and around the floor at the side of the rows of seats, till I could hardly breathe. "Did you see me?" I asked when she finally let go. "I only caught the end of it, love," she said. "But you were brilliant, absolutely brilliant. You weren't dancing, you were flying." "That's what it feels like," I said. "Flying.